What can we expect from this national caucus meeting for the Liberals?
Well, this isn't a meeting. This is a threat. This is a sword that's been half pulled out of its sheath. It's an indication of the Prime Minister that if he chooses not to step aside, if he does not, as many people expect, announce that he will be departing the office of Prime Minister on Monday or Tuesday, then there will be a meeting on Wednesday. It will include his entire caucus, and it will almost certainly include an ultimatum for him to leave, possibly a secret ballot, giving a very discernible, very graphic expression of the lack of confidence from his own government members. I think it's an insurance policy where the MPs are saying, if you don't make the decision, we will take control of the situation for ourselves.
But what can they do if he chooses to ignore all the signs that are telling him to resign?
Well, there's no provision for the Navy to literally get rid of a captain. But if the entire crew mutinies, if the entire crew says, Captain, we will not follow you, then it's difficult to move that vessel along. I think that's the situation we're at now. I think the expectation of caucus members, certainly those I've spoken with over the holidays, is that the Prime Minister will announce his departure, probably Monday, Tuesday. But that if he doesn't, then they will tell him in no uncertain terms that he must leave. Do they have a formal mechanism to do so under the constitution of the party or under the governing rules of caucus? No. But what leader can continue on if his entire caucus, if his whole flock says, we will no longer follow?
Now, if that happens, if we do see the resignation, what kind of damage has this internal friction done for the Liberals? Can they bounce back, or is this next election a loss for them?
Well, you never say it's a foregone conclusion, but I'll say this period of 2 weeks where arguably the Prime Minister thought to himself, all right, I guess I'm probably going to have to depart, but you know what, I'll take the holidays. It's a time when people aren't talking and thinking about politics anyway. I'll just relax, take a breather, and then do it under my own terms. If that was his logic, it has still come at a consequence for the party. We've seen polling that's shown the party has continued to lose support during this period of inaction. And I think, it's therefore caused some real damage to the party's re-elections hopes. The big debate will be, how do they pick a new leader and how soon will that leader be in place? One of the new challenges, if you imagine past Justin Trudeau for the party, is, are they really going to take 45, 60, 90 days to select a leader, have that person installed in place while Justin Trudeau remains leader, prime minister, and face of the government party, and then slot this person in with, 10 minutes before a non-confidence vote, no opportunity to establish a connection with Canadians, go immediately to the polls? That does sound like a recipe for slaughter.
And there are some people who are ready to go to that slaughter by the sounds of it. Mark Carney now, we're hearing reports that he may have been making some calls.
Roger, they are all calling. Dude, the phone bills are going up, okay? And so you've got Chrystia Freeland calling around. You've got Mark Carney expressing interest, trying to put in place an organization. Lots and lots and lots of names. And, there's the big struggle is this. The real question is, will the party have a sort of normal leadership race, notwithstanding the gun that is to their head in terms of parliamentary procedure and the threat of a non-confidence vote? Will they attempt to take 3 months to put in place a new leader, leaving that person with no time? Or will they opt instead for something that's short-circuited, shortcut, and get somebody else in place earlier? That's going to be a real battle. And to some degree, it's going to pit some of the candidates against one another, because how you pick a leader determines in great part who that leader will be. It's a big fight that's been going on behind the scenes over the course of the holidays. And if the Prime Minister steps down on Monday or Tuesday, that fight will break out into the open.
Will Justin Trudeau resign as the leader of the Liberal Party? Is he going to continue this charade of him trying to be liked? It's absolutely insane. I actually kind of agree with Scott Reid there, saying that if his whole party's telling him that they're just not going to follow his lead, he pretty much has no choice but to resign. So it's really going to be interesting to see what happens coming up on Monday and Tuesday. And as you guys know, that there's the Public Accounts Committee that's being called to discuss, and we're going to cover that live, which is going to be interesting. The Liberals are probably going to try and push a motion to adjourn and to stop the meeting. But there's also the good point that he made to Scott Reid, saying that if Justin Trudeau does resign, it literally doesn't give much time for the new leader to come in and doing anything. So is it even better if he resigns, or is it worse? So what do you guys think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already subscribed, guys, hit that subscribe button. But let's see what the CBC has to say about this, because they're also on the same page.
The Liberals are certainly continuing to talk about Justin Trudeau's future. We know that. There are reports today that senior Liberal MPs are in fact meeting there to discuss ways to pressure Trudeau to reveal his future. What do you make of that meeting going on?
Well, before we even think about that, I think it's important to acknowledge that Justin Trudeau is a very unique politician. He's a very clever guy. He knows how the media works. He knows how politics works. Because of that, he would be extremely sensitive to the fact that he's losing control of the Liberal caucus. And anytime any leader, especially a prime minister or a premier, loses control of the caucus, their time is going to run out as leader. So the very fact that we have news about all these Liberal MPs calling on the prime minister to step aside, the fact that they have caucus meetings happening where they are actively talking about what can we do, who should we replace him with, how should this work? And now we have media reports about how the leaders of these regional caucuses, which are quite powerful entities, are going to have a conversation today about Justin Trudeau and what to do about him, really tells you that Justin Trudeau is losing control of the Liberal Party, that he has had his hands all over for so long.
Right, but we have been talking about this for weeks and weeks. And I mean, it's been quite a while since the Atlantic caucus members came forward and said that he should step down. So how is all of this kind of coming together and further pressuring the prime minister to step aside? Is there any other potential option here in the near future?
Well, I mean, I think we shouldn't underestimate a prime minister's ability to use the levers of power to stay on. And so, there's some talk about proroguing Parliament to be able to get some breathing space. There have been instances, John Diefenbaker comes to mind many years ago, where you can get the prime minister to rally the troops. All of a sudden, all these nervous Nellies, as Jean Chrétien called them, can change their mind simply by listening to the confidence and enthusiasm of the leader. Now, that being said, it seems that we've gone past that point, and one big part of that is recent public opinion polls, which have the Liberals down in depths that party has not known. And so, you can try to rally the troops, you can try to buy more time, but the reality is that we're heading into an election year. And so what's happening is there are all sorts of Liberal MPs who are worried about their own political jobs. And once that happens, it's really tough to convince people that you should remain as leader.
Well, and you talk about how Trudeau is likely trying to rally support around him, trying to stay on as leader. Perhaps he is doing so. But what we're also learning is that there are reports that Chrystia Freeland has also been reaching out to Liberal MPs as speculation continues to swirl around Trudeau's future and who might replace her, or him, I should say. What do you make of the fact that there are these reports that she's been reaching out to other MPs?
Well, I think what's really interesting is that we're not hearing reports that Justin Trudeau is the one reaching out to MPs. And so if he was the one who was making all these calls and we were hearing about this, what we would get a sense of is this is a prime minister who's fighting for his job and trying to persuade people to give him more time to stay on. But we're not hearing those news reports. Instead, what we're hearing is Chrystia Freeland, who in some ways has turned into a political rival of Justin Trudeau's. She's the one who's trying to shore up support within the Liberal caucus. So I think what this is doing, the fact that we're hearing news stories about this, is the narrative is turning now. It's moved away from Justin Trudeau saying that he is going to lead the party into the next election to now people openly, kind of having conversations about replacing him and who should potentially become the Liberal leader. That's a very different conversation than we were having a month ago.
Okay, so to that point then, what's your gut telling you in terms of when we might hear an answer from Trudeau?
Well, it's, in politics, it's very hard to be able to predict anything. And again, I will repeat my comments about how Justin Trudeau is a very clever operator.
No, man.
But I think, he would have to realize that the gig is up. He is no longer going to be prime minister at some point in 2025. The question is when. And so to what extent does he want to string this out? Are there going to be constant stream of all sorts of things kind of falling apart around him? Or does he try to control the narrative and find some way forward that gives him some breathing room? So my sense is that he will try to stay on as leader as long as he possibly can, but nobody wants to be leader or has any legitimacy to be able to move forward if everybody around them, particularly in their caucus, is saying that it's time to go.